The massive conference hall hummed with tension. Holographic screens flickered with data, showing complicated charts and graphs that attempted to explain the most perplexing species in the known universe: humans. Hundreds of alien representatives from across the galaxy sat in perfectly arranged seats, their various appendages twitching with a mix of frustration and confusion. Captain Ji-hoon Park stood at the center of the room, looking completely relaxed. His dark eyes scanned the faces around him, if you could call them faces. Some had multiple eyes, others had no eyes at all. Some looked like walking rocks, while others appeared to be made of liquid or energy. But they all shared one thing: total bewilderment about human behavior. "Let me get this straight," said Administrator Verlax, a creature that looked like a combination of a praying mantis and a crystal chandelier. "Your species has something called Christmas Eve that involves massive social gatherings centered entirely around consuming large amounts of a liquid that temporarily impairs brain function." Ji-hoon smiled. It was not a kind smile. It was the smile of someone who knew something everyone else did not. "Not just a liquid," he responded calmly. "A celebration of connection, friendship, and cultural tradition." The room burst into a cacophony of translated languages. Translator devices worked overtime, converting alien sounds into something resembling human speech. Some translators actually sparked and smoked from the complexity of the conversation. Min-young Kim, Ji-hoon's second-in-command, stood beside him. Her cybernetic eye whirred softly, scanning the room and processing the reactions of every single alien present. She knew what was coming. Humans had a talent for turning regulations into opportunities, and this would be no different. The Stellar Confederation had spent years trying to understand human social customs. They had created thousands of documents, held hundreds of meetings, and sent countless diplomatic missions. Yet humans remained a complete mystery. Their ability to turn any situation into a celebration, their strange rituals, their unexpected kindness, and their bizarre sense of humor defied all logical analysis. "We have researched your drinking traditions," continued Administrator Verlax, multiple appendages waving a thick document. "According to our calculations, a single human gathering can consume enough alcohol to power a small starship's energy systems for a month." Ji-hoon nodded. "We're efficient that way." More alien noises filled the room. Some sounded like laughter, others like confusion, and a few like genuine terror. The document in Verlax's appendages was massive. It outlined precise regulations for human social gatherings. Each page contained complex mathematical formulas attempting to control human behavior. There were charts showing exactly how much liquid could be consumed, diagrams explaining acceptable social interactions, and lengthy sections about noise levels and potential property damage. Min-young leaned closer to Ji-hoon and whispered, "They have no idea what's coming, do they?" Ji-hoon's smile grew wider. "Absolutely none." In that moment, as alien representatives from 100 different worlds looked on with a mixture of fear and fascination, nobody realized that a simple human celebration was about to change galactic history forever. Christmas Eve was coming, and with it, a pub crawl that would become legendary across the universe. The starship Ganymede was not a typical spaceship. From the outside, it looked like any other diplomatic vessel, sleek, silver, with smooth lines that cut through space like a knife. But inside, something special was happening. Jason Lee worked in the engine room, but today he was doing something very different. His workspace was covered with strange objects. Tiny trees that could fold into small cubes, strings of lights that changed color, funny-looking figures that looked like a fat man in a red suit. "What are you doing?" asked Kroll, a rock-like alien who worked as the ship's maintenance officer. His voice sounded like gravel being crushed. Jason looked up and grinned. "Preparing for Christmas," he said simply. Kroll didn't understand. Most aliens didn't understand human celebrations. They saw them as weird, chaotic, and completely illogical. But humans had a way of making even the strangest things look fun. In another part of the ship, Haijin Kwan was doing something equally unusual. As the medical officer, She was supposed to take care of people's health. But right now, she was doing something that looked more like a complicated science experiment. She had dozens of small containers. Each one was filled with a different liquid. Some glowed. Some changed color when you moved them. Some looked like they shouldn't even exist in normal space. "These are drink mixers," she explained to a confused robotic assistant. "We need to make sure every alien can enjoy our celebration." The robotic assistant blinked its single red eye. It did not compute. Hygiene didn't care. She was having fun. Humans were good at that, finding joy in the most unexpected places. Meanwhile, in the main meeting room, Captain Ji-hoon Park was looking at a large holographic map. But this was not a map of space. This was a map of potential party locations inside the ship. "We'll need space for dancing," he mumbled to himself, "and a place for food. And drinks. Lots of drinks." Min-young Kim watched him, her cybernetic eye scanning and analyzing every movement. She knew what was coming. Christmas was not just a day. For humans, it was a mission. On the lower decks, other crew members were busy. Some were creating decorations. Some were planning music playlists. Some were designing special outfits. The entire ship was transforming. The alien crew members watched with a mix of confusion and worry. They had received the official warning from the Galactic Regulatory Committee. Celebrations were to be controlled. Drinking was to be limited. Fun was to be, well, regulated. They didn't know humans very well. Ji-sung finished his preparation. He had created what he called a portable party kit. It looked like a normal storage box, but inside were carefully packed items that could turn any space into a celebration zone in minutes. Hyjin had finished her drink mixers. Each one was designed for a different type of alien biology. Some would work for carbon-based life forms, some for silicon-based creatures, some for beings that breathe methane instead of oxygen. Captain Ji-hoon looked at his team. They were ready. Not just ready, they were excited. "They think they can regulate our fun," Min-young said quietly. Her cybernetic eye flickered with what almost looked like a smile. Ji-hoon nodded. "They have no idea what's coming." Outside the ship, space looked quiet and empty. But inside the Ganymede, something big was brewing. A celebration that would soon become legendary across the galaxy. The transmission came without warning. One moment, the ship's main conference room was quiet. The next moment, a huge holographic image appeared, filling the entire space with bright, flickering light. Administrator Vrillax looked terrifying. Its body was like a mix between a giant insect and a crystal. Multiple eyes moved in different directions. Tentacle-like arms waved around wildly. The translator device working overtime to convert its strange sounds into something humans could understand. "Attention, humans of the stellar vessel Ganymede." The transmission began. Every word was heavy with official importance. "Your proposed Christmas Eve celebrations have been deemed potentially dangerous to galactic peace and interspecies protocols." Ji-hoon Park stood listening. He was the ship's cultural liaison, which basically meant he was an expert in explaining human behavior to confused aliens. Right now, his face showed nothing. No emotion, no reaction. But inside, he was already planning. The other crew members tried to look serious. But it was hard. Some of them were biting their lips to stop from laughing. Others were looking at each other with secret smiles. Vrillax continued. The holographic image grew larger, more threatening. "We have analyzed your previous celebration records. The data is concerning." Charts and graphs appeared. They showed complex calculations about human party behaviors. Numbers danced around showing alcohol consumption, noise levels, and something called potential property damage risk. One graph showed a line that went straight up, almost at a vertical angle. It represented how quickly humans could turn a simple gathering into a full-blown party. "Your Christmas Eve celebrations," Vrillax said, "have been classified as a Level 5 social disruption event." Min-young Kim leaned over to Ji-hoon and whispered, "They have no idea what we're planning." Jihoon's smile was small, but it was the kind of smile that made alien administrators very, very nervous. The transmission listed the official regulations: no more than 100 milliliters of alcohol per person, no loud music, no dancing that could be considered excessive, no decorations that might confuse or disturb other species. Xiangmin stepped forward. He was wearing a perfectly pressed uniform, but something about him looked dangerous. The kind of dangerous that comes from knowing something others don't. "We acknowledge your concerns," he said carefully. Each word was chosen with precision. "We will, of course, follow all necessary protocols." Vrillax seemed to relax. Its crystal-like body stopped moving so frantically. The multiple eyes settled into a calmer pattern. But the crew of the Ganymede knew something the administrator did not. Following protocols for humans was not the same as what other species understood. In the engine room, Jae-sung continued preparing his portable party kit. In the medical bay, Haijin was finishing her special alien-friendly drink mixers. In the main conference room, Captain Jihoon was already planning the next steps. The transmission ended. Silence filled the ship. Then, slowly, the humans began to smile. Christmas was coming, and no amount of regulations could stop what was about to happen. Outside the ship, space looked quiet and empty. Stars twinkled. Planets spun in their orbits, but something was coming. Something big, something that would change everything. The lower decks of the starship Ganymede were not what they seemed. To most aliens, these would look like normal storage areas, but humans knew better. This was where the real magic happened. Haijin Kwan worked quietly in a small corner of the medical laboratory. Her workspace looked like a mad scientist's dream. Dozens of containers surrounded her. Some glowed, some bubbled, some changed color when you looked at them too long. "This is not just about drinks," she muttered to herself. "This is about bringing everyone together." Her medical training gave her a special advantage. She understood biology better than anyone, not just human biology, but alien biology too. Each species had different ways of processing liquids. Some breathed methane. Some were made of silicon. Some lived in temperatures that would freeze or burn other life forms. But Haijin had a plan. Across the room, Jae-sung Lee was doing something equally complicated. He was an engineer, but right now he looked more like an artist. Complicated machines were being modified. Normal storage boxes were being transformed. A portable celebration kit, he explained to a robotic assistant that was watching him with a single red eye. "We need to be ready for anything." The robotic assistant did not understand, but it kept watching. In another part of the lower decks, a group of crew members were having a secret meeting. They spoke in quiet voices. Their plans were careful, precise, but also completely crazy. "We need music," said one. "We need decorations," said another. "We need drinks that can work for every possible alien species," said a third. They looked like normal humans, but they were more than that. They were party planners, and they were preparing for something big. Captain Jihoon would sometimes walk through these lower decks. He would not say anything. He would just look and smile, a small smile that meant something big was coming. Min-young Kim followed him. Her cybernetic eye scanned everything. She was collecting data, planning, watching. The alien crew members tried to ignore what was happening. They read their official documents. They looked at their regulation charts. They believed they could control everything. They were wrong. Haijin finished her first set of drink mixers. Each one was special. Each one was designed for a different type of alien biology. Some would work for carbon-based life, some for silicon-based creatures, some for beings that breathed strange gases instead of oxygen. Jae-sung's portable celebration kit was almost ready. It looked like a normal storage box, but inside were carefully packed items that could turn any space into a party zone in minutes. "They think they can stop us," Min-young said quietly to Jihoon. Jihoon just smiled. "Regulations are just suggestions to humans," he responded. Outside the ship, Space looked quiet and empty. Stars moved slowly. Planets spun in their orbits. But inside the Ganymede, something was brewing. Something big. Something that would change everything. The holographic recreation area changed slowly. One moment, it was a blank space. The next moment, something magical happened. Lights appeared. Not just normal lights. These were special lights that changed color and moved. They looked like tiny stars dancing around the room. Soft music started to play. A mix of sounds that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Tables began to form. But these were not normal tables. Each one was different. Each one was designed for a different type of alien species. For the silicon-based creatures, there were tables made of special materials that could change shape. For the methane-breathing aliens, there were cooling stations that kept their drinks at the perfect temperature. For water-based life forms, there were tables with special liquid surfaces that moved and shifted. Jason Lee stood in the center of the room. He looked proud. This was his creation. A pub that could welcome every kind of life form in the galaxy. "Welcome to the Galactic Christmas Pub," he announced. The first aliens looked confused. They had received official warnings. They had been told this celebration was dangerous. But something pulled them into the room. Hyjin Kwan stood behind a long bar, but this was not a normal bar. This was a scientific marvel. Hundreds of tubes and containers surrounded her. Each one was carefully labeled. Each one contained a special drink mixed specifically for a different type of alien biology. "What would you like?" she asked a Croxian diplomat who looked nervous. The Croxian had 3 eyes and skin that looked like crystal. It moved slowly, carefully. "I'm not sure," it said. Hyjin smiled. "Trust me," she said. She mixed a drink. It changed colors as she made it. Blue, green, purple. Finally, it settled on a color that seemed to glow from inside. The Croxian took a small sip. Its 3 eyes went wide. "This is," the alien started to say, then stopped, then started again. "This is amazing." More aliens began to arrive. Each one looked confused. Each one was surprised. Captain Ji-hoon Park watched from the side. His first toast was simple but important. "To traditions that can't be regulated," he announced. He raised a glass. The glass contained a mixture that looked impossible. Earth whiskey. A rare liquid from the Andromeda galaxy. Something that glowed slightly green. The room was filling up. Aliens who had never spoken to each other were now talking. Laughing. Sharing stories. A methane-breathing creature was dancing with a silicon-based life form. Music played that somehow made sense to every type of ear, or ear-like sensor, in the room. Minhyun Kim watched everything. Her cybernetic eye scanned and recorded, but even she looked impressed. "They have no idea what's coming," she whispered to Ji-hoon. Ji-hoon just smiled. Outside the holographic room, the ship continued its journey through space. Stars moved slowly. Planets spun in their orbits. But inside this special room, something magical was happening. Humans had created more than a pub. They had created a place of connection. A place where different species could meet, laugh, celebrate. Christmas was here, and nothing would be the same again. Administrator Verlax's next transmission was less composed. Holographic alerts flashed, showing the spreading contamination of human celebratory protocols across multiple star systems. Entire space stations were transforming into improvised Christmas party venues. "This is a violation," the administrator screeched, multiple translator devices struggling to capture the full range of bureaucratic outrage. Xiangmin just smiled and adjusted his Santa hat. Something magical was happening across the galaxy. What started as a single ship's celebration was now spreading like wildfire. The first ship to join was a trading vessel near the Orion Nebula. Its captain, a human named Daeun Kim, saw the transmission from the Ganymede and knew exactly what to do. Within minutes, her ship's cargo hold transformed. Cargo containers became bar stations. Shipping crates turned into dance floors. The ship's communication systems began playing music that seemed to make even the most rigid machines want to move. Another ship joined, then another, then an entire space station. Hai-Jin Kwan's drink mixers became legendary. Each one was a scientific marvel. They could work for any type of life form. Silicon-based creatures, methane breathers, energy beings, water creatures. It didn't matter. Drink brings people together, she would say, mixing another impossible cocktail. On a research platform near Jupiter, scientists who had never spoken to each other were now dancing. A crystalline life form was spinning with a gas-based being. Nobody knew how. Nobody cared. Jae-sung Lee watched the spread of the celebration with pride. His portable party kits were everywhere. What looked like normal storage boxes could turn any space into a party zone in minutes. This is not just a celebration, he told a confused robotic assistant. This is connection. The robotic assistant did not understand, but it kept watching. Captain Ji-hoon Park received reports from across the galaxy. Each one made him smile more. A diplomatic ship near the Andromeda Galaxy had turned its main conference room into a dance floor. A mining station was playing Earth Christmas music. A research vessel was sharing drinks designed to work for every possible type of alien biology. Min Young Kim's cybernetic eye tracked everything. She collected data, watched, analyzed. They are learning, she said quietly to Ji-hoon. What? He asked. Aliens are learning what humans know, she explained. Celebration is not about rules. It's about connection. The pub crawl was spreading, but it was more than a party. It was something bigger. On one space station, a methane-breathing alien learned to dance for the first time. On another, a silicon-based life form tasted its first Christmas drink. Creatures that had never spoken to each other were now sharing stories, laughing, connecting. Administrator Verlax watched in horror. The holographic screens showed more and more platforms joining the celebration. The graphs of potential disruption were changing into graphs of unexpected connection. This is impossible, the administrator kept saying. But it was happening. Seung-min Park watched everything. His face showed nothing, but his eyes told a different story. This was more than a party. This was a moment of galactic understanding. The music played. The drinks flowed. The decorations spread. Holographic snowflakes appeared on ships that had never seen snow. Music played that somehow made sense to every type of ear, or ear-like sensor, in the galaxy. Humans had created more than a celebration. They had created a way of bringing different species together. Outside, stars continued to move. Planets spun in their orbits, but something was changing. Something big. Something that would alter how different species saw each other forever. Christmas was here, and nothing would be the same again. Something strange was happening across the galaxy. The Christmas celebration was solving problems that years of diplomatic meetings could not fix. On a space station near the Carina Nebula, two species that had not spoken to each other for 200 years were now sharing a drink. A Croxian diplomat was laughing with a silicon-based life form. They were telling jokes, sharing stories. Hai-Jin Kwan watched from a distance. Her special drink mixers had become more than just drinks. They were tools of communication. Drink brings people together, she would say. But now it was more than that. Drinks were breaking down walls between species. Captain Ji-hoon Park received reports from across the galaxy. Each one was more surprising than the last. A trade dispute that had lasted decades was suddenly solved over a Christmas cocktail. Two mining companies that had been fighting for years were now planning joint operations. A diplomatic conflict that had seemed impossible to resolve was melting away. Min Young Kim's cybernetic eye tracked everything. She collected data, watched, analyzed. They are learning, she told Ji-hoon. Learning what? He asked. That connection is more important than rules, she explained. On a research platform near Jupiter, scientists from different species were now working together. They had never spoken before. Now they were sharing drinks, sharing ideas, solving problems that had seemed impossible. Jesumbli's portable party kits were everywhere. What looked like normal storage boxes could turn any space into a place of connection in minutes. "This is not just a celebration," he told a confused robotic assistant. "This is how we solve problems." The robotic assistant did not understand, but it kept watching. Administrator Verlax watched in total confusion. The holographic screens showed more and more platforms joining the celebration. The graphs of potential disruption were changing into graphs of unexpected cooperation. Xiaomin Park watched everything. His face showed nothing, but his eyes told a different story. A methane-breathing alien learned to dance for the first time. A silicon-based life form tasted its first Christmas drink. Creatures that had never spoken to each other were now sharing stories, laughing, connecting. One report showed a complete surprise. A long-standing territorial dispute between two star systems was being resolved. How? Over Christmas drinks and shared stories. "Impossible," muttered Verlax. But it was happening. The music played. The drinks flowed. The decorations spread. Holographic snowflakes appeared on ships that had never seen snow. Music played that somehow made sense to every type of ear, or ear-like sensor, in the galaxy. Humans had created more than a celebration. They had created a way of bringing different species together. On the starship Ganymede, the celebration continued. But now it was more than a party. It was a moment of galactic understanding. Jihun looked at Minyoung. Minyoung looked back and smiled. "They thought they could regulate us," Jihun said quietly. "They were wrong," Minyoung responded. Outside, stars continued to move. Planets spun in their orbits, but something was changing. Something big. Something that would alter how different species saw each other forever. Complex diplomatic knots were being untangled. Old conflicts were being solved. And it was all happening because of a human Christmas celebration. Christmas was here, and nothing would be the same again. When everything was over, the Stellar Confederation did something they had never done before. They held a meeting. But this was not a normal meeting. Captain Jihun Park sat at the center of the room. Around him were representatives from hundreds of different species, creatures that looked like walking crystals, beings made of gas, life forms that seemed to be made of pure energy. Administrator Verlax looked smaller now. Its crystal body seemed less sharp. Its multiple eyes moved slowly. "We need to understand," the administrator said. Minyoung Kim's cybernetic eye scanned the room. She was collecting data, watching, analyzing. The reports were amazing. The Christmas celebration had done something impossible. Diplomatic conflicts that had lasted hundreds of years were now solved. Trade agreements that seemed impossible were now happening. Species that had never spoken to each other were now working together. "How?" asked a methane-breathing diplomat. "How did this happen?" Xiaomin Park stepped forward. He was the cultural liaison, the expert in explaining human behavior. "It's simple," he said. "Connection matters more than rules." Haijin Quan had brought her special drink mixers. Each one was designed for a different type of alien biology. She began explaining how she created them. "Drink is more than a liquid," she said. "It's a way of understanding each other." Jason Lee showed his portable party kits. What looked like normal storage boxes could turn any space into a place of connection in minutes. "Celebration is not about following rules," he explained. "It's about bringing people together." The numbers were incredible. The Stellar Confederation's data showed 237 long-standing conflicts resolved, 456 new trade agreements created, 1,203 different species now talking to each other, 0 violent incidents during the celebration. Administrator Verlax looked at the charts. The graphs that used to show potential disruption now showed unexpected cooperation. "This is impossible," the administrator muttered. But it had happened. Captain Jihun Park sat quietly. His smile was small, but it was the kind of smile that meant something big had changed. "We tried to regulate humans," one diplomat said. "Humans don't work that way," another responded. Outside the meeting room, space looked quiet. Stars moved slowly, planets spun in their orbits, but something had changed forever. The Stellar Confederation would never be the same again. Minyoung looked at Ji-hoon. "What now?" she asked. Ji-hoon's response was simple. "We celebrate," he said. The meeting continued. More stories were shared. More drinks were mixed. More connections were made. Humans had shown the galaxy something important. Celebration was not about rules. It was about bringing people together, about understanding each other, about connection. Administrator Verlax was quietly moved to a different position, far away from any important decisions, forever haunted by the memory of how humans turned regulation into celebration. Captain Ji-hoon Park's final report was simple. "Mission accomplished. Merry Christmas." Some traditions, it seemed, were universal and completely impossible to regulate.